Co-host was described actually by someone on my table as a force of nature. He's the Executive Director of the Australian Intercultural Society. Ahmet Keskin has been involved in community activism for more than 25 years and has dedicated himself to promoting intercultural and interfaith dialogue. And on a personal note, I'd like to thank Ahmet and his family for their friendship over the past couple of years and for having me at Iftar dinners and also for having me here tonight. So please welcome Ahmet Keskin.
Thanks, Nathan, for that very generous reference. Actually, that force of nature's in Sydney. If you saw Ahmet, you'd have another great experience with him. He's a real force of nature, but that's my predecessor, Ahmet. Well, thank you for those very kind words. I really appreciate that. May I also start by acknowledging the traditional owners upon the land which we gather and pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, on which we gather and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you with the Islamic greeting of Salam Alaikum, which means peace be upon you, and Ramadan Mubarak to you all. I'd like to thank you all for participating in this annual AIS event. Without your support and presence, this dinner would have no significance. I'd also like to acknowledge our co-hosts, the Minister Robin Scott, Minister for Multicultural Affairs and Finance, and the Shadow Minister for Multicultural Affairs and Shadow Minister for Scrutiny of Government, Senior College. Thanks for that and sharing that story. Really appreciate that. I'd also like to acknowledge our keynote speaker, Dr. Helen Soki, who I had the pleasure of meeting some 5-6 years ago, and she was. We were very fortunate to host her on one of our study tours with my predecessor, but we did catch up with Helen in Turkey back in 2012 or thereabouts. And as you know, she's the Chief of Oxfam, and we look forward to hearing your presentation shortly. Tonight we also have with us the former Victoria Governor, Professor David de Kretser, and Jan. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, we really appreciate your participation. And I'd also like to just quickly acknowledge the Federal Minister for Multicultural Affairs, who is here with us, Alan Tudge, and some of our federal parliamentarians, as well as all our state parliamentarians, for joining us and supporting us during these challenging times. To the members of the judiciary, we welcome you. It's good to see the President of the Court of Appeals, Justice Chris Maxwell, here with us tonight. We welcome you and all the barristers, all the legal practitioners here tonight. To the many representatives from the Consular Corps, the public service, media, academia, NGOs, sports, arts, entertainment, business, community, and religious leaders, welcome one and all. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, the AFP, NAB, Fountain Bookshop and Selimia Foundation for their generosity in supporting tonight's event. As Inga said, yes, we have been going through some challenging times, but the world is going through some challenging times. And for the AIS in particular, it's been a time for us to reflect and to refocus on what is the important thing for us to do. And these sort of events that we believe is what we should be focusing on, and that's what we're trying to do, just get along and move along with our business as usual. In that note, I'd also like to formally acknowledge and thank all our advisory board members for their support and guidance during this period, and we really appreciate the support and the guidance and counselling they have given to us. The Victoria Parliament Iftar dinner is one of the most special dinners in the whole month of Ramadan. It is a good reminder of how far we have come throughout the years, as AIS held its very first Iftar dinner back in 2001, and tonight is the actual 18th, but the 13th Victoria Parliament Iftar dinner. It is also great to see that Ramadan has made a permanent mark in the social calendar. We see many Muslim and non-Muslim organisations hosting Iftar programs in Melbourne and throughout Australia. Just in the AIS, we are hosting or co-hosting some 46 Iftar dinners. 40 of them are home Iftar dinners during a 30-day calendar period. We also have an end of Ramadan festival coming up, an Eid celebration with Deakin University later on this month. And just want to take a moment to acknowledge the Vice Chancellor of Deakin, Professor Jane Den Hollander, and thank her for her support over the years as well. Ramadan is a time for thanksgiving, devotion, spiritual nourishment and sharing. A time when we gather around a dinner table and share not only food, but also share common values and friendship. The Muslim community opens its homes to the wider society in Ramadan, and to reciprocate, the people of Victoria open their house, their parliament, to the diversity-rich audience here tonight. This mutual welcoming acceptance goes a long way in showing our oneness in society. As mentioned many times before, multiculturalism is part of this nation's story. It's a contributing factor to its growth and identity. We Australians like to travel abroad as we have interest about the world we live in and a genuine inquisitiveness about how others live. We are somewhat bold enough to try new dishes and partake in cultural performances or activities which gets us out of our comfort zone. This willingness to participate or to be immersed in the other's experience goes a long way in how we treat people, whether overseas or here. Here in Australia, we are encouraged to give it a go, to have a dig. We also support the underdog in their attempt to rise beyond expectations. Why do we do this? Is it because we as individuals have to continually strive to overcome the hurdles in front of us and silence the naysayers? Could it also be because we are appreciative of being far from major conflicts like in other parts of the world? And to keep it that way, it requires us to be vigilant and constantly active in upholding harmony. Even though we boast of social cohesion and the majority of us do support diversity, there's still an issue of unconscious bias that affects everything from hiring in the workplace to socialising. To work on our biases, we must clearly engage more with the other to break down these stereotypes. Getting to know the other and their difference is good. We should embrace difference and grow with it, only to realise that there are far more commonalities than there are differences. It shouldn't take a person like Mamadou Gassama, the Malian immigrant in France who had to climb several floors of balconies to save a child hanging off the balcony to be recognised of our oneness in humanity. His heroic act should not be the reason of his acceptance to society. He should not be on a list called a good migrant and be given special provisions, whereas others of his ilk are given unfavourable attention. This classification of minorities to good and bad groups doesn't help when trying to eradicate racism and any type of prejudice, whether it be Islamophobia, anti-Semitism and the like. The grouping of people into classes is a divisive threat that is existential and have the potential to tear down society and lead to serious conflict. If we have learned anything from the Me Too movement, it's that we need to listen to and trust people when they call out injustice. I believe Australia could lead the way in challenging these structures that keep minorities feel like they need to be superhumans just to reach the average level of the white male. I too am reflecting on how my gender and appearance gives me certain advantages in life and how I can use everything at my disposal to create change. It is our sincere call that everyone in the audience use their privilege to create change and accept the humanity of all of us, irrespective of their gender, skin colour, age, profession or ability. I also believe we should break the cycle of exclusion and we should stop using these stories of previous waves of migrants who worked hard and rose above their station and their inclusion. To say that those before you, the Irish, the Italians, the Greeks, all face what you are facing now, but they worked hard and are now accepted. This statement shows that racism is an unchanging reality that is always seeking out a new victim whilst ignoring those who have been victimised in the past. For centuries, our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders had struggled for equality on their own lands, and their struggle is still ongoing. We ask new migrants to do the same as previous migrants, work hard and rise above the hatred. But what if they didn't have to be subjected to hatred? What if we challenged that system of hatred? What if we accepted people for who they are and assist where we can to advance their settlement into Australia? These are uncomfortable thoughts, but the holy month of Ramadan is a time for reflection and self-criticism, and these are my musings. Once again, I'd like to thank you for your attendance and your ongoing support and wish that this night opens doors of mercy upon all of us. Again, I'd like to thank and pay tribute to our sponsors for this evening, the AFP, NAB, Fountain Bookshop and Selimia Foundation. I greet everyone with the deepest respect. Ramadan Mubarak to you all.